Hello everyone, this is Carly at Crafting with Class, and today I am joining Camp Create over at My Favorite Things for day 3. And the challenge today is wonderful watercolor. So we're supposed to create a card featuring watercoloring. So this is a card that I have created for this challenge today to earn my 3rd badge. And so the flowers are watercolored, and then there's also some splatter as well. So here is what I used. So I used Ranger watercolor paper for the flowers and the leaves. I also have used this set called Simply Fab Sayings by My Favorite Things. I also used this set by Avery, Elle called Sentimental, and I'm using the thanks with one of the little coordinating sentiments. For the dies, I used the Wonky stitches from Avery, and I used the largest one of those, and I also used the largest stitched rectangle stacks from My Favorite Things for the inside of my card. Okay, and the star of the show, of course, are these flowers, which are the Plentiful Petals from My Favorite Things, and I'm also going to be using the Royal Leaves, which are also from My Favorite Things. Okay, so now that you know what I'm going to be using, we can get started. So let's create the card. Okay, so I die cut them from watercolor paper, as you can see there. These are the distress inks that I'm going to use, and I'm going to have them all listed for you on my blog and in the description box. So I started off with a first color, and I just want to create a wash of color on them, just a basic color for the flowers. So I did this with all 3 of the colors that I used, which are Worn Lipstick, and now this is Picked Raspberry, which these are 3 of my favorite colors of the Distress line. And again, I just want to give them a nice color bath on both sides, because in case you look under the flower, you won't see white, you'll see a base color. So for the 3rd one, I use Wilted Violet, which is a beautiful lavender purple color. And then I set them aside and let them all dry. Okay, so here they are, dry and ready for the next step. So I took the same colors, and I have a little jar of water, clean water, to the side. I'm taking, this is a number 6 paintbrush, and I'm just adding a darker shade to the middle of each of those petals. And I'm not really doing anything, crazy as far as being super detailed and making sure everything's, I'm just adding some color to deepen the centers, because I'm going to be distressing these anyway, so it really doesn't have to be perfect. And I love this technique because anyone can do it. That's why I'm doing it, because it's really simple to do. Alright, so I'm finishing up the second one, and I did this step for all of the flowers. So I let that dry, and now I'm taking some clean water on my paintbrush, and I'm flicking it, creating drops of water. And I'm going to let this sit there for a few seconds, and then I'm going to take my paper towel, and then I'll remove the water, and then that will also remove some of the color. Now, while it's still kind of damp, I'm going to take my paintbrush and roll the ends of the petals forward, and then on the other one I'm going to roll them back to create dimension for the flower. So you want to do this while they're still damp, because it's easier to be able to do this step rather than when they're dry. Okay, so then I'm going to adhere them together, and there are all 3. Okay, so I did the same thing with the leaves. I did one basic coat of Twisted Citron, and now I'm just taking my paintbrush with some clean water on the brush, and I'm dipping it into Mowed Lawn, and I'm just adding some splatters of ink. So there's not just water on here, it's Mowed Lawn. So it's going to have speckles of the darker green, which is Mowed Lawn. And then I did the same things for the centers of the flowers. So I gave them a base color, and then I went ahead and then tapped them with some of the wild honey, which is what I used. Now, I let them all dry, and I'm adding, there's dimensionals on the back, dimensional adhesive. Now I'm adding them to each of the flowers to pop them up a little bit. So there you can see what they look like, and you can see the dimension that, you know, folding them or rolling them on that creates. And there are the leaves as well. So I really like the look that that gave it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and take those 3 colors that I used, which are Worn Lipstick, Picked Raspberry, and Wilted Violet, and I'm gonna create some splatters in the background to coordinate with the colors of the flowers as well. So I went ahead and took the flowers, and I'm adding a glue dot to the back, and then these are craft glue dots, so they're bigger but they're not thick. So I like that because they're bigger glue dots, but they're not going to add a bunch of bulk. And so I am adhering all 3 down with the craft glue dot, and I'm kind of arranging them, you know, and I'm kind of working them in between each other of the little petals to accommodate all 3 flowers. And then I'm doing the same thing with the leaves. So I took 3 of the leaves, and I am adhering them also with the glue dots. And the nice thing about the glue dots is that I can still kind of, you know, move them around, and which is what I'm doing until I kind of like the placement, and then I can press them down and they'll stay there. So of course, what did I do? Forget about the sentiment. So now that I have all this bulk and dimension, now it's time to add a sentiment, right? So I went ahead and inked up the sentiment with some Versamark ink and stamped it down. Of course, I use my embossing buddy to eliminate any static. I'm using my favorite embossing powder color, which is Liquid Platinum by Ranger. It's a really beautiful color. It's not this like in your face gold, it's a really soft gold, and it's just really classy and pretty. So I'm taking my heat tool and I am embossing it. So now I'm going to add the little sentiment underneath the thanks. And again, I'm doing the same steps using my embossing buddy, stamping it with the Versamark ink, and then I'm also going to use the liquid platinum embossing powder. So now I'm going to create my card base, which is going to be a top folding A2 size card. So it is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 size card. So I'm using the Martha Stewart mini scoring for that. So I decided that I wanted to little bit of dimension on this panel, even though it has a lot already with the flowers, but I just really liked a little lift from the card base. So I went ahead and added some foam adhesive to the back from my ginormous roll there, and I removed the adhesive, or the liner I should say, now the adhesive, I need that. So I removed the liner to expose the adhesive, and then I went and placed it on my card. Now all of a sudden I got this crazy sunlight coming through my window, so sorry about that weird lighting. But there you can see the dimension from the flowers. And for the inside, I took the extra 2 leaves that were left over, and I sprinkled some more splatters with the same ink colors that I used on the front to finish off the inside of my card. And it says, "I think you're wonderful. Thanks so very much." So I'm going to leave you with a few pictures of the finished card, and as you can see, I also added some Wink of Stella to the petals to make them shimmer, because I really didn't want to add anything more. I thought it was plenty going on in the front. Thanks so much for watching, subscribing, and liking my videos. All the supplies that I used are listed in the description box, and also they are on my blog. And for more deets and info, you can go ahead and I will invite you to my blog, craftingwithclass.blogspot.com. So thanks again for watching. Have a lovely craft afternoon, and bye for now.